to the Raising the Standard show. It's our joy to introduce you to our guest today, Reverend Johnny Bradley, and tell you a little bit about his history as well. Brother Johnny, you are the senior pastor of Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church, where you've served for 10 years.
Yes, ma'am.
You've also been serving as the president of Dallas Bible Theological Institute for 4 years now, and are married to the beautiful Deandra, and have 4 active children in their faith. And then we just found out here on set that you're finishing up your PhD in expository preaching, and that your defense is December 1st. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. It's a D-Min in expository preaching.
A D-Min in expository
Yes,
preaching out of Anderson University.
Anderson University
right?
in Anderson, South Carolina.
That's great. Well, we're excited to hear your insights about a pastoral's role, but we wanted to get to know you a little bit first and hear about your story. So when you think about loving the Lord with all of your mind, what comes to mind?
Well, first of all, submission and obedience comes to mind in regards to loving the Lord with your whole heart and your mind, and applying yourself to education. In order for any people group to survive, education has to be a necessity. And so if there's no education, typically people groups will dissolve. And what I mean by education is teaching and learning, learning and teaching, because you have I said those that are more mature generationally, passing down standards, let's just say values, customs of their particular people group. And if those are not passed down, then normally what ends up happening is the people group becomes, I would say, valueless.
Wow.
No ambitions, no goals, no objectives, no, I would say, passion to pursue goals in their own personal lives. And so education is a necessity, but at the same time, you have to have the right, I would say, perspective when viewing God. Viewing God, adoring Him for who He is and what He's doing in your life and how He can change your life. Paul said it like this in Romans 12, present your body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. But a lot of people stop at verse 1 in Romans 12 instead of going to verse 2. And he said, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so what that does, that set the platform for education, because in chapters 1 through 11 in the book of Romans, we hear Paul talk about what Christ has done for us and how He has saved us, you know, because all of us sin comes short of the glory of God, Romans 3 and 23. And you look at what Romans 5 and 8, God commended His love toward us while we were yet sinners. Christ died for us, and that's why Romans 8 and 28, and we know that all things will work together for the good for those who love the Lord, to them who are called according to His purpose. It works out simply because God has done all of this for us. But then there's a transition in chapter 12 in the book of Romans, and basically Paul is saying, at least this is what you can do since God has done all of this. And it comes with renewing your mind, becoming educated on what's going on, how you can prepare yourself and be all that God wants you to be. And so it's imperative that we seek education, that we adore God for who He is. But then I think also we have to remember that when God begins to do a work in our lives, we ought to be willing to invest in somebody else. The Apostle Paul did that with Timothy when he encouraged him educationally to study, to show himself approved. 2 Timothy 2:15. Prove who? Unto God. A workman needed not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And so basically what he was telling Timothy was, cut it straight. You know, educationally understand what you're talking about in the scriptures so that you might be able to share with somebody else. Teaching and learning and mentoring and sacrificially giving of yourself. And so that's basically what it's really all about. And if the infrastructure from the inner city to the suburbs, if people are not willing to invest in others to the point, and I would say families understand the significance of preparing their children educationally, and those sacrificing, sharing with others about education, then you would dissolve.
So, wow, that's really powerful. So as I heard you share about this, I'm thinking it sounds like when education is broken,
Yes.
when the system is broken, or an educational, when that is not happening,
Yes.
where there's a passing on, a teaching from one generation to another,
Yes.
that the people are broken.
Yes.
And we can expect that. And
Yes.
that the standards that we set need to be high,
Yes.
because there's a platform in Scripture that says we need to respond to God's love.
Yes.
And a part of how we respond is with our mind.
Yes.
And so we can really not only divide it, rightly divide it,
Yes.
the word of truth, right? But that we can explain it to someone else, that there's
Yes.
purpose beyond that of our own understanding,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So as we think about the pastor's role, because we've covered a lot even in that short amount of time, because I love the way that you brought it back to the overarching goal of what the Lord has for us.
Yes.
As you think about the pastor's role, what can pastors do to help equip students to get that mentality?
Well, I think first that the pastor has to understand that the mission and the message stays the same. What we do as pastors is just try to improve our way of connecting and communicating the mission and the message. And so the pastor has to expose, children, youth, young adults, seasoned adults, even senior adults, to different educational opportunities, workshops, training those in the local church. And don't be so intimidated to bring some people in.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are some people that have more areas of expertise than we have. And so we bring them in and allow them to train the people that serve in ministry with you. Allow them.
What's an example of that, of one of those things you brought into your church to allow people to develop and have that educational experience you're talking about?
Texas Baptist Convention. We've had leaders in the Texas Baptist Convention come in. We had a gentleman who's really works in the area of the Hispanic ministry and the Southern Baptist of Texas Convention. They've come in and they've done a workshop at our church. Mainly the majority of our church, percentage-wise, is African American. But where we're located, we wanted to go across the street, not just be so focused on African Americans, but we wanted to focus on the Hispanic population, which surrounds our church. So we brought them in, allowed them to train us for us the customs, the belief systems, basically how the Hispanics think, how they approach things, because what the Hispanic population value, I might not value, but we don't desire to offend them if we're going to successfully witness to them.
That's right.
And so we brought them in, allowed them to train us, teach us in a workshop setting, gave us books and pamphlets and flyers, so that when we do a Shallow Missionary Baptist Church, our Sunday morning mission, which is on Sunday morning during our Sunday school hour, we go 0 to 5 mile radius of the church. We will have flyers, pamphlets. We would have different Bibles that's not just in English, but in Spanish. And then we have a Hispanic church that worships in our fellowship hall. Hispanic pastor. And so what he did, he said, well, Pastor, I tell you what we'll do. We'll partner with you. Even though we're here worshiping, here in the same building, and, our times are a little different, we'll come together on this day, and what we'll do, we'll go out together. And so they come alongside of us, and they partner with us, and we're able to impact not only African Americans, but Hispanics.
That's great.
I just think that's beautiful, because it's such what we need to be about. We need to open our eyes and see who is around us, right? And so not only our culture, so if you're serving at a Latino culture or a Latino church or a Hispanic church, but you open your eyes and you see Asian neighbors or African American neighbors around you, that we would have that openness
Yes.
to invite others as well. So,
Yeah.
well, we are certainly excited that we get to come back and have a part 2 with you, because we want to share. We want to ask you a couple of questions about tips and about some items that pastors need to be looking out for students when they're in trouble and struggling. And so we'll come back and share with that. But I wanted to ask you, Gideon, what stood out to you from what Pastor Bradley said, because they're just such a wealth of information.
Definitely. What stood out to me the most was just the idea of allowing yourself to be educated, but not just, that impacting the way you saw your community around you.
Yeah.
When you learn a little bit about somebody else's culture, it really does have an effect on you, and you're able to go out and speak to another different group.
Well, and we are going to come back in just a moment. We always want you to know what's happening around the country, so if you'll watch this video and find out more.
The goals for Education Sunday are pretty simple. If we are saying that we want the faith community and the education community to tear down false walls that have separated them in the past, there's no better way to do it than to dedicate a Sunday to say education is important.
The idea of Education Sunday surfaced as an opportunity to help the pastor and people in the pew get an understanding of the importance of education.
Transform your church just for a day and elevate the role of education, and just for that Sunday, focus on education.
We will have biblical references, sermons, Sunday school lessons, Bible studies, worship services that are built all around the theme of the importance of education.
Churches engage in Education Sunday simply by saying, we're in.
We will take God's special time on Sunday to affirm the importance of education for our kids. It's a huge innovation.
Pastors get this. They understand personally and professionally why education is important to this community. Go online and let us know that you're participating, so you can register for Education Sunday and we can celebrate the fact that you are participating.